Okay, well, I'm going to get started now. So, good morning slash afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our exploration of data science. Now, data science may sound technical, but it's actually like having a superpower in today's world. Just like how superheroes use their abilities to protect people and solve problems, data scientists use numbers and patterns to make the world better and safer. So, today we'll discover how you can develop these powers yourself and use them to make a real world difference in whatever field you may find interesting. So let's meet your speaker. I am Shante Miller, a program manager in airport operations safety at United Airlines. My journey into data science started just like many of you may have started, with curiosity. Lots of questions about how things work, the why. And after studying at Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University, I learned how people interact with technology and how to keep air travel safe, which led to my current role. Think of me as like a detective who uses data to solve mysteries before they become problems, working to keep thousands of passengers safe every day. The amazing thing about my job is that I get to combine technology, problem solving, and helping people, all skills that you yourself can start developing right now. So, what is data science? You can think of data science as your TikTok For You page. It predicts what you want by finding patterns, which is just like how we analyze real world data to solve problems before they happen. At United Airlines, when I look at safety data, I use these same powers. I'm not just looking at numbers on the screen, I'm looking for patterns that tell stories and stories about how we can make flying or the preparation of our flights safer and more efficient. Maybe it's spotting trends in how equipment is being used on the ground or analyzing reports about things that could be improved in the cockpit, outside the cockpit, within the airport, all around. By connecting these dots, we can make changes that prevent incidents before they occur. So let me give you a real world example of how data science work. In 2021, JetBlue faced an exciting challenge when they started flying to London. They needed to ensure their pilots stayed alert and performed at their best during long flights across multiple time zones. For starters, JetBlue had never flew across the Atlantic and were navigating unfamiliar territory at the time. They acquired a new fleet type called the Airbus A321 long range and trained a group of pilots to operate this new route. However, they needed to know more information on what risks to expect and safety recommendations that could assist. To tackle this, I was selected to launch a comprehensive study tracking 88 pilots flying that new aircraft, collecting data about sleep patterns, alertness levels, and performance at different stages of flight. I used multiple tools to gather this information, including surveys, sleep monitoring devices, and a special rest facility on the aircraft, creating what we call a data rich environment that would help them understand exactly what their pilots needed to perform their best. I analyzed the data using various statistical and data science techniques such as coding, making predictions, and cleaning data, as well as using biomathematical modeling software to further analyze the data. This project took me 15 months. And there's a lot of back and forth of collecting data with the pilots who did this route multiple times just to get enough information because there was only a small pool of pilots that were qualified to do this route. And the route started initially from Newark to London Heathrow and Gatwick. Um, in collecting the data, we kind of looked at their pairings prior, during, and after to determine what issues they may come across. In addition, the results of the JetBlue study reveal fascinating patterns that help make flying safer and assisted in JetBlue expanding their routes to not only London, but also Amsterdam and Paris as well. I discovered that eastbound flights to London were particularly challenging because pilots often were awake more than 10 hours before they even started their flight. So, for example, let's say their flight started at 10 a.m., they were up 10 hours before because they needed to prepare for that flight. Using the biomathematical software called Safety Fast, I predicted when pilots would be most tired and designed rest schedules that would keep them alert during critical phases of flight, which was takeoff, um, when they increase altitude, and landing. The real world application of data science directly impacted safety, showing how collecting and analyzing data can solve complex problems and protect people. I was also able to understand each pilot's experience to collecting the data, as I said before, prior, during, and after each trip. And this happened for a 2 day span. So each pilot kind of submitted a survey of about 100 questions, which was a lot for 2 days in a row. I used the data science to give our stakeholders insight on their day to day, so there was careful consideration when putting them back on schedule to ensure they were well rested. And now JetBlue flies multiple times a day to all of those routes across the pond. Okay, so now that you know that how I use data science to combat a big problem JetBlue face, let's talk about the actual tools data scientists use. Think of these tools like our superhero gadgets. Python is like a Swiss Army knife of programming languages. In the JetBlue study, I used Python and other programming languages to analyze data points about pilot sleep patterns and alertness levels, which was also inserted into that biomathematical software. Python is incredibly versatile. You can start with simple commands like calculating averages and work your way up to complex analyses. The best part about Python is it is free to learn and used everywhere from Instagram to NASA. I'll let you know on a personal secret about Python. It is the hardest one, in my opinion, but once you learn Python, you can learn any other language. I taught myself how to code Python and eventually learned SQL, PySpark, and TypeScript because I knew Python. SQL databases are like our filing cabinets, but kind of in a nicer way. For my JetBlue study, I use SQL to store and organize all the pilot data. So imagine having thousands of spreadsheets with information about every flight, every pilot's rest period, and every alertness score for each pilot on a 2 day span. SQL helped me find exactly what I needed in seconds and store the data accurately. Visualization tools like Power BI and Spotfire are how we tell our stories with the data. In the JetBlue study, I created heat maps showing pilot alertness throughout critical phases of flight. And instead of looking at endless rows of numbers and numbers and numbers, these tools create colorful, interactive charts that help everyone understand the data instantly. And that's what data science is. So you may be wondering, how is data science a part of your life? Data science isn't just for airlines or big companies. It's a part of your daily life in ways you might not even realize. When you use social media and get a personalized recommendations, that's data science at work. When your favorite video game adjusts its difficulty based on how you're playing, that's data science too. Even the weather app on your phone uses complex data science to predict tomorrow's forecast. The skills you learn in data science can be applied to almost any field you're passionate about, from sports to environmental protection to driving a car or traveling on public transportation. Everything is data science. So let's talk about how you can become a data scientist. Data science powers virtually every industry, as I mentioned before. In aviation, we use it to keep our flights safe and on time. Healthcare uses data science to detect diseases earlier and develop better treatment plans. Sports teams analyze player performance and game strategies with data science. Video game companies use it to create more engaging experiences. Social media apps use it to analyze user behaviors, such as like what posts you may like and share, and create recommendation systems suggesting friends or content you may enjoy, and develop algorithms that keep you engaged on their platforms. And environmental scientists also use data science to track climate change and predict weather predictions patterns. The amazing thing about data science is the skills are transferable. Once you learn the basics, such as Python, SQL, all those programming languages, you can apply them to anything you're interested in. So let's get started. Lucky for you, you don't need to wait until college to start your data science journey. Websites like Codecademy, which is where I learned how to code Python, and Khan Academy offer free Python and SQL courses where you can learn at your own pace. You can probably join your school's coding club or start one if it doesn't exist. I would recommend trying Codecademy or Khan Academy as soon as possible because you get through the nitty gritty of the hard part or understanding the programming language in a very simple manner. And if you do decide to take data science up as a degree program in your college, as your career opportunity, you have the basics. So you don't have to be stressed out when you're in college and you're taking about 5 to 6 classes a semester, and one of them include learning Python, and it's really stressing you out. It is very stressful. I won't lie about it. However, if you take the time to learn it as fast as possible, as soon as possible, I should say, you'll be better off and you'll be happier because you'll learn a lot more in life and you'll also think of things in a deeper manner. I joke around with my family and friends all the time and talk about how my life has become so analytical. Everything I talk about is analytics, it's data science. I'm talking about coding, or I'm speaking in the manner of coding. I try to turn it on and off, but unfortunately, it's such a big part of my life because I acknowledge and realize how data science affects everything that we do. As simple as turning on the light, opening the fridge, closing the fridge. There's so many things data science is a part of. So I would encourage you guys to join organizations like Girls Who Code or Code Avengers, Black Girls Code, and they all offer great programs specifically designed for students like you. Just remember that data science is a beginner thing. You start as a beginner and you learn things off of your own interests, projects that you might find interesting, or things that you ask why about, or you wonder, how did this get started? Who thought about this? You can use data science to get to the nitty gritty of it. If I could go back in time, I would learn coding at your age rather than when I learned. I believe if my journey started way back where you guys are, I would be so much further because it's so interesting. So please, 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 I'm begging you to start now. My last point to use a call to action. So here's your challenge. Pick one topic that you're curious about and start collecting data on it. It could be tracking homework completion times to find your most productive study hours, or monitoring local traffic patterns to suggest better routes to your school, or even thinking about your sleep wake history when you have exams coming up. Sign up for Code Academy or Khan Academy, or download Python this week and try your first programming tutorial. Join an online coding community with the approval of your parents or guardians or even teachers. You can also join a local STEM program in your area. The key is to start somewhere and keep building your skills. Remember that data science isn't just about the numbers, it's about using those numbers to make positive changes in the world. And that's it. Do I have any questions?
Awesome. Thanks, Shantae. Someone's asking if you use Rust within your workflow.
I do not use Rust within my workflow as it isn't necessarily required for my current role, but there are jobs at United that do use that.
Cool. Waiting for people. It takes a second for them to ask the question, type it, and then enter it. But as we wait for them, what's your favorite part about data science in general? Not just with your work, but what do you like most about it?
Honestly, when I'm trying to figure out something in my personal life, like for example, adjusting my budget every year, I use data science to do it. I come up with different coding constraints using SQL. Some I don't like to do it with Python because it's a little bit complicated, but using SQL, and I adjust my budget every year. And sometimes if I have a big expense that comes up, I will create a code to tell me how I need to draw back on fun things that I spend my money on. So yeah, it's literally a part of my everyday life.
I love it. Okay, so we have a question that is, what are some small data projects you would recommend for high school students, and where can we access the data for these projects?
Okay, so first I would say when you sign up for Code Academy and you go through the tutorials, they offer little small projects within the end of each module for you to do your own coding exercise. But also, I would recommend you can download a lot of heavy data sets or light data sets on the internet. So I would say tracking your homework assignments, you can do that one that I mentioned earlier, where you can create your own data set, and follow me here if you can. So let's say all of your classes, and you write the number of assignments you get from each class, and you can create a spreadsheet on it and then put it into Python. You can download Python after you've completed at least one module on Code Academy, because it'll be a little bit harder to kind of work through Python if you don't know the basics. And then you can look at the average of assignments you have per week or per day. And then you can also you can use your grades from your assignments and average them out as well to predict what your final grade may be in that class.
Cool. I like that. Sorry, I'm waiting for other people to ask questions. Someone asked how you enjoyed Delta, and then they deleted it because I think they realized that it was not Delta. You were at JetBlue and now at United. Have you worked at any other airlines?
I can answer that question still. So when I was in college, I interned at American Airlines. I worked with NASA there and the FAA, which was a very interesting experience. And then when I graduated college, I had a job offer with JetBlue, and I was there for about 2 years before coming on to United. I liked working at JetBlue just because most of my work was that project. But after that project, I realized that there was greater in store for me, and I came to United. And when I came to United, I initially worked in flight safety investigations, and I used all of everything I talked about in flight safety investigations, where we tried to predict what was happening with our aircraft and different incidents that may occur and try to be more proactive rather than reactive. And right now in airport operations safety, I'm doing the same thing, where I'm trying to be proactive in catching things before they happen and giving people the room to report things to us so we can use that information and predict what could possibly happen around certain gates and stop it.
Cool. I love it. Someone asks, what kind of group should I join during college to assist me in learning more about data science?
So, if you go to a school that has arts and sciences or a college of engineering, most of them have clubs like engineering rock, things like that. It's various different names. What I would recommend is speaking to whoever is your advisor in your college, or going to that college of engineering if they have one, or college of arts and sciences, and find out what clubs the school support that are related to data science.
Cool. What's your least favorite part about data science, or what's the most frustrating part about it?
When the code doesn't work. And I can promise you, the code doesn't work more often than none. And it's very interesting because sometimes the code doesn't work for simple things like you missed the comma, you missed the close quotation, you had an extra character in there. It is very sensitive. And sometimes you'll be pressing run, 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 and you're like, why isn't this working? And then you realize something is missing or something that's there that shouldn't be there. So I will say it's very frustrating sometimes when the code doesn't work. And what I do to combat that is I'll take a break from it, give it a rest. I'll reread, I'll go through each line, go over it, read it over and over again to find the issue. And once I find the issue, I'm relieved. But quite often, it's when the codes don't work. And it's mostly when I'm using PySpark, which is very complicated.
Cool. All right, let's see. Oh, okay. How do you manage a job that involves handling people's lives working in the aviation industry? That's a really good one.
So I will say it seems very intimidating, but honestly speaking, I wanted to be a part of the aviation industry since I was in the ninth grade. I really wanted to be a pilot, believe it or not. It didn't work out like that because I get sick when I fly in small planes. And in order to learn how to fly, it had to be in small planes. So I found another way to be a part of the industry. And that was just helping people directly in the background. I will say that I take my job a little bit more serious because I know that people are depending on me, whether that's our pilots, our ground crew, our passengers, our maintenance people, or people that work in our dispatch office. I don't take it as a lot of pressure, but more so an added responsibility that I take pride in. I am very, very, very into my work. I really like the idea of aviation safety and human factors and things like that. So it could be tough sometimes. Some days are hard, but I remind myself of the why I'm doing this and how I got into this in the first place. And it's just my first love.
Awesome. Okay, and then I know the answer to this, but for Python and other, you can talk about other programming languages that you work in. It's asking if it tells you where the error is, if there's one in the code.
Yes and no, because sometimes it'll give you a long description of the error, sometimes a short description. It just isn't as easy to understand what it is. Like it'll say where it is and it'll tell you undefined, or you are referencing something that is not in the data set that you're looking for. It won't narrow it down specifically to what the issue is, but it will give you an idea so you can start looking at certain lines. That's usually what it is.
Awesome. Questions have slowed down, but we'll still hang out.
Okay.
Let's see. How big are the data sets that you work with in a daily basis?
Sometimes some of them have 100,000 rows. Some of them have less. Quite often, what I'll do if I'm trying to narrow down something to create a visualization, I will filter out and use SQL to try to get as much basic information as possible and then export. Because 100,000 rows is a lot. But quite often, my data sets have about 100,000 rows because of the type of information that's in there, because it's historical and current data.
Mm. So I worked at a company prior to being at Next Tech that would tell our data scientists, hey, can you look at the data and see if it tells us X, Y, and Z? And the data scientists would come back and be like, well, it actually tells us A, B, and C. Have you come across things like that where people on your team are asking you to like prove one thing and it proves absolutely the complete opposite?
Every single time I'm asked to tell us if it's saying this, it always shows something completely different. It's a lot of different pockets that come out of data that we don't really expect. And that's the beauty in data. It'll tell you exactly what you're looking for in different ways. There is a problem. That's what data will tell you. There is a problem, but it might not be exactly what they think it is. And that's I enjoy that because then I get to analyze it, and then I also go out into the field and look to see if I'm seeing what our data tells us.
Yep. That's a good point. Not just like taking the data as complete truth, but putting some eyes on
Yeah.
it as well. I like that. I know you shared the large project you did, but were there off the top of your head, and maybe there isn't because I'm putting you on the spot, but were there any like instances where you were running a model and you thought the response, like the analytics were incorrect because you were just like, there's no way this could be right?
So yes, I would say so. Recently I was looking at data concerning our injuries at United in the airport operations. I wanted to see like what group was mostly being injured. So I grouped them by newbies, so 1 to 3 years, somewhat seasoned 3 to 5 years, then seasoned 5 to 10 years, and then 10 to 15 years, and anything over 15 years to see who were our most injured group. Now, bias, I and as well as my leaders thought that the older groups would be more injured because, we think older people tend to be injured easily as they grow older. And we have an aging force because United has a great retention with their employees. That was not the case. Our most injured were our newbies, 1 to 3 years, or someone that was in 3 to 5 years. And the reason was being because when most of them came on, the time frame was about COVID times. So training was a lot different than it was before. So people didn't necessarily get the same amount of training that someone from 5 to 10 years had. So they were getting injured on the job easier because they didn't know a lot of things. I had access to certain training modules. That was very surprising to me.
Huh. Cool. That's a good one for sure. All right. If the airline industry didn't exist, where would you move? What industry would you go into and do data science in?
Social media. I definitely would be in social media.
Cool. Put in a little like psychological understanding in there.
Yes. And so when I first started human factors, which is what I did my undergrad in, I was so into user experience. I really liked the development of certain apps. I would work on a lot of projects with my professors using gaming apps to see how user experience affects what we think about life in real world. We used gaming systems as our prototype and we transferred into other things using that data. So really social media would have been my thing. I like colorful things, making apps look pretty, stuff like that, aesthetically pleasing things.
That's awesome. Do you at United only work with the safety team, or do you also work with customer service?
So customer service, everything
I'm asking because of your interest in the social media. And
no, not outside of safety. No, yeah. People always suggest that I do it. Like, oh, you should work with customer service or do like videos or content with United. No, I don't do that. No.
That's cool. It would just be like fascinating to see the intersection between your your love and interest for like social media and social construct and the customer service aspect of the aviation industry.
It would be. Maybe I should sign up for it.
All right. Oh, so someone is asking how data science can be used in the field of robotics.
Okay, so I'll say, in my experience in this is really going to be only from a college perspective because that's as far as I went with that. But in robotics, prior to building a prototype of something, you have to learn those programming languages, and then you use those to help create how your prototype, I'm going to call your thing a robot, operates. The programming language is a big part of that, and it'll learn how to do whatever you want it to do based off of the programming language you use. So if you want to teach a prototype to pick up the garbage and throw it out, you have to program it like that using a programming language. When I was in college, I, for fun, was a part of a little project in a club just to support the club. And they created a robot that could deliver certain items to certain areas of our campus. Um, and I didn't know coding to it because I didn't know how to code at the time, but I just supported them by housing their data and like organizing their data. And I went back to my college about last year, and now they have delivery service throughout the campus using robotics. They deliver food, books, supplies to each building. I thought that was really cool. Like the project or the ideas of the students at the time, which was many moons ago, now is in full use.
All right. Cool. Okay. Oh, sorry. I just realized my camera was off. So we said if you weren't in the aviation industry, where we go? Okay, I'll ask you this. Okay. If data science wasn't a thing, what would you do other than data science? Would you stay with computer science and pick another field within computer science, or would you do something else? Or maybe you try to figure out how to make piloting work?
I probably would have tried to figure out how to make piloting work because I really wanted it to work, and it was possible for it to work. I just didn't have the time to give to it because at the time I was an athlete as well, and I was actually one of the ones that did okay. So I had to go to a lot of track meets. So I had to choose between actually sticking to making piloting work or go to my track meet because that's how I'm going to school. So I chose to go to the track meets. But really, if you have like altitude sickness or you get sick in small planes, the best thing to do is Gatorade and electrolytes. You kind of have to keep doing it until you get over it. Quite often, people, their first few flights throw up a lot in the planes, but as soon as you get enough electrolytes and Gatorade in your system, not too much so you don't have to, use the bathroom while you're on the plane, but there are ways to fix it. I just never gave it the time of day.
I like that. Someone is asking how much of your job involves continuous learning compared to what you learned in college?
I am always learning. Every day I learn something new, especially when I'm using programming languages to talk to our data or try to be predictive, proactive in the data. I learn something new every day. I learn a different style of coding every day. PySpark, I said Python is complicated, but PySpark is the most complicated in my opinion. And as I use PySpark, I feel so much joy when I learn more about it because it's just ever evolving, and you learn how to manipulate data in certain ways and also get the right answers. Even if it's not what you hypothesize, it still gives you great insights on things you can do. And then also I use data to kind of do my work for me. I mean, sorry, programming languages kind of do my work for me. So let's say I know every day my leaders expect a certain analysis from me. I have it programmed where it does it every day using programming languages on its own. It comes to those solutions. So I learn something new every day, and I'm really happy about that. It's not a job where No day is the same. No 2 days is the same. And that's enlightening for me.
Mm, I like that. And then I know you shared a bunch of like options of things that students can do and try to like get their feet wet. Someone is asking if you've ever used code.org.
No, I have not.
Okay. But they teach Python and JavaScript and stuff in there. So
I think if it's a free one or whatever, I think you should join it. Join as much as you can. JavaScript is very good to know. Very good to know.
sweet. Cool. All right. I've asked all my questions of you. I've asked some hard ones, some philosophical ones. Anyone else? Anyone else have any other questions for Shantae? Data science, programming, aviation, safety related,
Anything.
anything. Oh, what did you do in track? What did you run or what events?
Oh, I did short sprints. So anything from 100 straight to 400. I did not like running the 100. I also did not like running the 400, but the 400 was my better event. It's just one of those races where it's a full-on sprint. So you run until you can't run anymore. And like the last 100 is like you're seeing double, seeing triple, and you're just like to get to the end. So it's not one of those races I would ever want to do again, but it was my best event.
That's awesome. No one has any more questions? All right. We're almost at session time anyway, so we'll stick on for another 4 minutes and then
Okay.
But thank you. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. This was very exciting.
Yes, it was lovely. I enjoy it. I'll let everyone know. My husband works with Shantae at United, so that's
Yeah.
how I know Shantae, and I actually know a lot about data and aviation safety. I think I was in the house when he was on the call talking about the younger people not getting trained properly.
Oh, really?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
That sounded familiar because he was frustrated that a lot of the new hires have been trained via videos and not in-person training.
Like at home using their own, like you can use an iPad at home or something and do it versus like being in person. And it's a lot of computer based training now versus the in-person training that happened prior to COVID.
Mm. All right, we got 2 more really good questions. This
Okay.
person's asking, what advice would you give to someone starting college who is unsure about which specific field they want to apply computer science in?
Okay, first things first, I would say your first semester, and I'm just being brutally honest, you take the easiest classes you can think of. One hard class, and the hard class I would say is a coding class if there's any at the university you plan to go to. Nothing before 10 a.m. I'm just being honest with you. I know you wake up early now to go to school and it's routine, but sometimes when you don't have parental advice or figures in the same area as you, waking up early is just not the same. You will miss your 8 o'clock in the morning class, and that's not good. So nothing before 10 a.m. until you have mastered being a college student living on your own. And like I said, all easy classes. So let's say you take five. Four of them easy and one a complicated one, which I would say coding. And you'll learn pretty quickly if that's something that's for you because you're not coupling it with other hard things. If you have too many hard things at once, you're just going to be like, I can't do this. I need to drop one of these. I'm done with it. And more than likely, coding would be the one that you drop just because it's more complicated than hard. So take that advice, please. Second semester, I would say you get more into your arts and sciences because every school requires you to have a certain level of like general studies. You can take more of arts and sciences and maybe another step up in that coding, but also not four hards and the coding. You'll do three, two hards and a step two, level two coding, and then a really, really easy one. So Psych 101, for example. And I feel like once you do it that way, you'll understand if coding is something you're interested in or data science is something you're interested in. And even if it isn't, you already know more than half of what everyone else knows because you've taken it to level 2, which means whenever you decide you want to apply for internships, you can write that on your resume saying that you know how to manipulate data, you know how to work in data science, because let's face it, regardless of whatever field you choose, data science is a huge component on it. People collect data all day and quite often don't know how to analyze the data, what to do with that data, and how to present it in a visual aesthetic. I would also say any class that offers like understanding Tableau, Power BI, or Spotfire is another good one to take, because now you're learning how to you learn how to analyze the data. Now you're going to learn how to present the data in a visually pleasing way that people can understand and digest easily.
Awesome. Do you have any suggestions on how they decide if they want to go into data science or cybersecurity or just a software developer?
I would say now is the time to like use your social media like YouTube and stuff, or if you rather short form TikTok videos on what different career fields you can get out of cybersecurity or software engineering or data science, anything like that. If you are more motivated by how much money you're going to make, start off there. If you're more motivated on how you will change the world, you can also start off there. If you're interested in all of it, I would say first start thinking about and searching what career fields exist, what the future will look like for those career fields, the longevity of those career fields, and how you can make a difference.
Awesome. And then I know we're at time, but someone asked if there is a way to contact you if they have future questions. I am happy to be the gatekeeper if you want me to give them my
Yeah.
email address, or I can give them your email address, whatever you're.
You can actually share my email address. I'm thinking if I would say my personal email address,
Okay.
so rather than my United, because United filters emails, so it's possible that I could never get an email that was sent to me. So I would share my personal email address, and I'll give that to you, Jenna.
Okay. Great. And then we will get it to your teachers, or yeah, to your teachers.
Yep.
All right. Well, thank you. We're at time. So thank you so much, Shantae. Take care.